So today we are diving deep into Charles Duhigg's incredible book, Supercommunicators, to get to the bottom of a really fundamental truth. Great communication, it isn't some magic gift. It's a science, and we're about to learn the rules. We've all been there, right? You're in a conversation that's just electric. You feel totally in sync, like you're on the exact same wavelength. And then there's the other kind. The one with the awkward silences where you just feel completely and totally misunderstood. So, what is the secret? What makes a conversation truly click? For most of us, a conversation that goes wrong is just frustrating, annoying, maybe. But what if a life actually depended on it? What if your job was to talk someone out of a room literally filled with deadly snakes? For some people, connection isn't a nice to have. It's everything. All right, so let's start by piecing together this connection puzzle. And to do that, we really need to meet someone who absolutely mastered this skill when lives were on the line. This is Felix Segala. He was a legendary FBI negotiator who could, it seemed, connect with absolutely anyone. His most famous case? He talked a fugitive into surrendering from a room packed with cobras and rattlesnakes. And his secret weapon wasn't force, it was empathy. He somehow got the guy to see the situation from the snake's perspective. Now, this was so bizarre, so effective, that the Department of Defense actually hired scientists just to figure out what on earth he was doing. But here's the thing. When those scientists sat him down, Felix told them the absolute core truth of this entire explainer. He said, "It's a set of skills. There's nothing magical about it." And honestly, that is fantastic news for all of us because it means that real connection, well, it's something we can all learn. Okay, so if it's a learnable skill, why do we mess it up so often? Let's step away from the high-stakes world of the FBI and into, say, an office, where we often find ourselves talking on completely different wavelengths. Oof, have you ever heard this? Or maybe worse, felt this? The author, Charles Duhigg, he's definitely been there. He tells this story about a time he was managing a project, and a colleague came to him just completely exasperated and said those exact 4 words. And this is where the wires got crossed. See, the colleague was trying to talk about an emotional need. She felt disrespected, unheard. But Duhigg, being the manager, he immediately jumped to a practical solution. Let's make an org chart. He was trying to solve a what-to-do problem, but she was trying to talk about a how-we-feel problem. So here's the crucial insight. The problem wasn't what they were saying. It's that they were having 2 completely different kinds of conversations at the exact same time. He was in a practical, problem-solving conversation. She was in an emotional one. They were on 2 different frequencies, and that's why there was absolutely no connection. And this leads us to the central idea of the entire book. We almost always think we're just having one conversation, but in reality, there are actually 3 distinct types of conversations happening all at once. And understanding them, well, that's the key to everything. So, Duhigg's research breaks it down like this. Every single discussion is a blend of 3 currents flowing at the same time. There's the practical conversation, which asks, what's this really about? There's the emotional one, which asks, how do we feel? And then there's the social one, which explores, who are we? The secret is learning to spot which current is the strongest in any given moment. Okay, so first up, we have practical conversations. These are all about solving problems. They're the what's this really about conversations. Think logistics, plans, decisions. Hey, what time are we meeting? Or, okay, so who's handling that report? This is the conversation of the head. Then you've got the emotional conversations. These are all about the question, how do we feel? And the goal here is not to find a solution, it's to find a connection. This is when you say, I'm just so overwhelmed, and your friend replies, I totally get it, that sounds incredibly tough. This is the heart conversation. And finally, we have social conversations. These are all about our identities. They're asking, who are we in relation to each other? This is the stuff that comes up when we talk about our values, our backgrounds, our shared history. It's how we figure out where we stand with each other and in the world. Okay. So we know the 3 types of conversations exist. That's great. But what do we do with that information? Well, that's where the matching principle comes in. This is the practical skill you can start using literally today. Now this is the secret sauce. The key to connection isn't being some kind of master of all 3 types of conversation. No. It's simply about figuring out which conversation the other person is trying to have and then joining them there.
You just have to match them. If they're talking about feelings, you talk about feelings. If they're talking about a plan, you talk about a plan. You tune in to their frequency.
It really just breaks down into 3 simple steps. First, you just have to identify what kind of conversation is happening. Are they talking about plans, feelings, or their identity? Second, ask what are called learning questions. Now, these are questions designed purely to understand their point of view, not just to set up your reply. So instead of saying, well, here's what you should do, you ask, what's the biggest challenge for you in all this? And then step 3, match their focus. Once you get what they're after, you align your response to meet them right where they are. That is how you make a conversation click. So, what is this new superpower you have? It's the simple but profound understanding that being an amazing communicator isn't some gift you're born with, it's a skill you can actually build. Hey, remember Felix Segala with the snakes? He was right all along. There is no magic trick here. Super communicators are made, not born. They're simply people who pay a little bit closer attention, who listen a little bit harder to figure out which of those 3 conversations is really happening. And this is why it matters so much. Because as Dahig writes, the right conversation at the right moment can change everything. A single conversation, if you can truly connect, has the power to change a relationship, a project, maybe even a life. It all just comes down to having the right conversation at the right moment. So the next time you're talking with someone, just listen. Listen closely. Are you talking about plans, feelings, or identity? And most importantly, are you both having the same conversation? Because the answer to that question, well, it just might change everything.